All right, so objective number 3 is to create and modify walls. This one can be kind of a long one. So as I go along here, I'm going to decide at some point that I need to break off and create a part 2. So let's just kind of see how it goes. Typically when I'm doing walls, I'm going to start at the lowest level, the top of slab or whatever I named it. It could be level 1. Sometimes, actually, a lot of times I leave that as level 1. I was using top of slab as an example, but as you see over here, it changes it also. So I know to go to top of slab for my level 1. And I did kind of mess up my grids there a little bit. So let's go back to south view, and let's see if I can put those back where they were. Okay, now see if they show back up. There we go. Okay. In this, of course, you'll get to see kind of how you would use these grids. So I'm going to create a structure, a house, or whatever, and I'm going to start with choosing a wall. I believe that, yeah, select a wall. That's going to be found on the Architecture tab, and you see Wall right here. If you pull down the flyout, Wall Architectural, Wall Structural, and then by face. I typically don't mess with face. Structural, it's going to put the wall below the surface, okay, below the ground. Architectural, of course, will put them above the ground. So architectural wall, and right now it is a basic generic wall. You can choose a wall that's closest to the wall construction that you really want to have, or you can simply use the generic 8-inch just to get you started. Okay, so that's going to come up later where we actually assign materials to the wall. So if I just say I just use the generic 8-inch, okay. Now as I draw my wall, all I have to do is click on the spot, okay, and release the mouse button, and it starts drawing the wall. I'll take this wall to the distance that I want it to be, and then I click again. Okay, and then I might bring it downwards. Now it's very important to draw in a clockwise fashion. If you do not draw in a clockwise fashion like I'm doing right now, then the exterior materials of your wall will actually be on the interior of the structure. I'm just going to go for broke here and just try this really odd shape. Okay, so now we have a whole set of walls. Now you can move these walls. I think that is, what is the next one? Okay, I did clockwise. Edit position and angle with grips. Okay, so I can actually use grips. And before I start clicking on and editing the walls, I want to hit the escape button twice to get out of the wall tool. Now I'm pretty much in a modify mode. So if I click on the wall, it's going to, basically make that wall active. You can see this arrow right here, which tells you which is the inside and which is the outside of the wall. So the arrow's on the outside, so that means that is the outside of the wall. If the arrow were on the inside, and I can actually make it on the inside, I can just click on it. Now the arrows are on the inside, which means the exterior of my wall is actually on the inside. So I'm going to click it again to put it back on the outside. I can actually move this wall by the grips. I can shorten this wall. Say if I wanted a gap for whatever odd reason. Move it back. I can also move the wall. Just see it. If I hover, it gives me that move in all direction cursor, and I can move the wall up. I can move the wall back down. Place it right there. Okay. I can also extend it this way, as well, and then bring that back. I can do that to every one of these walls and do it that way. I can also use the temporary dimensions, and let's say, well, I know I want this wall to be 20 feet from this wall. Okay, so these two walls should be 20 feet apart. All I have to do is type in 20 feet, enter, and it'll give me that 20 feet apart. Okay, and say I'm not really concerned with how far these are apart. All right, so those are some ways that you can edit with grips. Okay, now some other things that come along with actually laying walls, and let me go back into the wall tool. to do this. Okay, I'm back in the same wall, and there's some settings here. Of course, if you wanted to do an offset and you wanted to draw the wall and you wanted it to be, like, say, offset 1 foot from the spot that you were drawing it, you just type 1 foot in there. And as I start drawing this wall, as you can see, I clicked right there on that grid line, but it's actually drawing the wall 1 foot away from the grid line. Okay, so there's that really odd wall there. That could be a garden wall or something. Another thing is changing the join status. You can allow joins, okay, which basically you'll typically use it with allow joins. So as I was drawing this and making each corner, it was allowing this corner joint. If I did not do that, then basically each wall would be a separate wall, and you would actually see the line that would separate the two walls because they wouldn't be physically joined. Another change is right here. Okay, let's say all these lines are drawn, or all these walls are drawn by the center. Okay, I'm going to draw another wall right here. Oops, that's still in offset mode. I'm going to change that offset. Okay, offset 0. And I'm just going to draw right along this grid line. And as you see, I'm measuring. Okay, if you look at the reference on this wall, it's measuring by the center. Okay, see where the X is on the wall? It's by the center. All right, well, let's say I want to make this wall, and I want to measure by the interior side, which would be this side down here. Then I can change this to, and it could be core centerline. Now the core of the wall would be the material in the middle, like the wood or steel or whatever you're using. Okay, so it'd be either side of that, or finish face. Finish face is probably easier to understand. So let's say I want to do finish face interior, and I come here and I click on this grid line. I start drawing it out, and as you can see now, well, the X is still in the middle, but you can see as I'm going along this grid line that it's referencing the interior face of that wall. Okay, all right. Now I could change that, and let's say I don't want that wall. I could change that to finish face exterior, and watch what happens now. Now it's referencing the exterior face of the wall and drawing it inside of these lines, and I'll join those two together. Okay, so that's that. That's how you do your offsets and your different positions for drawing the wall. Okay, most of the time you're going to draw wall center line, but if you really need to make sure you get certain dimensions accomplished, then you'll change that to where it's not wall center line. Right now the height of the wall is at 20 feet, which is fine. It's unconnected at 20 feet, which means it's really not based on anything. That's just kind of a default measurement. If I were to put a roof on the house at, say, 8 feet, the normal wall height, then it would actually cut those walls off at 8 feet. It would not extend those walls beyond the roof. I could also restrain it to top of wall 1, and I can make all these walls just go up to top of wall 1, and that would be very helpful if you were just going to have, like, maybe kind of an offset second floor, or maybe just a much smaller second floor where it would not take up the entire footprint of the house. And to do that, of course, if I were to change it now, it would only affect the new walls that I draw. If I wanted it to change all the walls that I have currently drawn, then I would need to change it over I would have to select all of them, and then, it could change it right over here. Another selection here, you can see where it says height. If I click on that, then it has a depth. Okay, I'm drawing height because I want the wall to be above ground. If I choose depth, then the walls will be drawn below ground, or below that first level. Okay, so that let's see. Okay, editing height. So that kind of takes care of editing height as well. So let's go ahead and say I do want all my walls. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. I'm just go ahead and select all my walls, and I do not want to select grid line. So what I'll do is select a wall, and then I'll right click and select all instances visible in view. Now it just selected all the walls, and it says unconnected. I can leave it as unconnected in case I want to do any adjustments with the roof itself, but I can actually change this to, let's say, give us a little bit of space and say 9 feet. Okay, now all the walls will be 9 feet instead of the 20 feet. Let's go into an elevation view, south elevation, and look at that. Okay, so all the walls are still selected, and you can see I'm just above the 8 foot 6 inches. I'm at 9 feet. Okay, so let's change that back to 20, so you'll see how that works. Okay, now the walls are 20 feet tall. Okay, you can see that they're all highlighted in blue right now. Let's say I wanted to connect them to a certain level. Let's say I wanted to connect them to top of wall 1. So I click on TLW1, and now they are perfectly connected to top of wall 1. Okay, now that takes care of that. Let's go next, and we will talk about editing properties of the wall and materials and things like that, but we're going to do that on the next video. So this video is part 1, and then we'll have a part 2.